Hi guys, so today I'm going to be sharing with you all of the art and DIYs that I have in my bedroom, whether they are hung on one of my walls or simply placed somewhere on a shelf. I hope you enjoy and let's get into it. One of the first things that you see when entering my room is this painting that I did a couple of years ago. I made a whole YouTube video of me painting it, of the process, so if you'd like to check that out, I'll leave a link to it in the description, and I will do that for all the other DIYs and art that I have in my room that are also present in YouTube videos. This is a portrait and it says, "Tell me if I'm so important to you, then why was I so easily replaced?" It was based on this song. Just got inspired by it and so I made it. I do really like the colours and I used different types of art supplies. I used Posca markers, acrylic paint, and I think that's it. But yeah, just hanging there on my wall. It is pretty big and I thought it would be nice to see it. I do really like the colours and the background that I did. So yeah, that's one of the first things that you see when entering my room. Another painting that I've done that I have hung in my room is this one. I also made a YouTube video called The Artist's Hands. For this one I used watercolour, Posca markers and acrylic paint, and also coloured pencils for very few of them. I have no idea which one I prefer between the two, but I just have them in this little corner. This one I just left on the easel. I don't really paint, so yeah, those are the two main paintings that I've done just there. Another thing that I've done is something that I did many years ago. Couldn't exactly tell you when it was, but it's this little pile of suitcases that I just painted pastel colours. I was very much into pastel colours back in secondary school, so that's why I did it. It's not my thing as much now, but I still kept them because I think they fit quite well in that corner and I still think they're sort of cute. Probably would change the colours a little bit to fit my current style now, but yeah, it is what it is. It's not like it's that off from my current style, but yeah, I did say that it's a pile of different suitcases. It is sort of true, even though the blue one is not actually a suitcase, it's literally just a cardboard box. Yeah, I won't say anything more about it. Pretty self-explanatory. Just got some suitcases, painted them with acrylic paint, and that was that. The next thing that I have hung in my room that you could slightly consider a DIY, even though it's sort of not, is this frame in which I put a piece of fabric. That's it. Yeah, that's just the only DIY about it. Very simple. Could be argued that it's not a DIY or a piece of art, but I just wanted to include it because I think it was very clever. I didn't come up with it, but in case anyone was interested, there you go. I nearly forgot this one, but this is a little plushie that I did also many years ago. Back in secondary school, I think. I was probably like 12. I saw a design of it on Pinterest and I just wanted to recreate it. If you couldn't tell, it's an owl. I used a very stretchy fabric, which wasn't the most practical. I hadn't really sewn anything before then, but I did my best. Very stretchy fabric, sewed it, and then stuffed it with stuffing or whatever it's called. And then I did stuff that I had laying around. This is another piece of fabric. The eyes are made out of cotton pads that I cut out, and then the black things are from a old belt that I had laying around. So yeah, pretty cute, I guess. I'm just gonna put it back in the little corner. Continuing on with the shelf, another one that I did, which is a much more recent one, is this little teddy bear. I finished it a couple months ago. Basically, I was given a LED white teddy bear by my sister for one of my birthdays or Christmases years ago, and I didn't really have it on display. I don't know, you just don't always keep things. And then a couple years after that, so more recently, I stumbled upon it when I was trying to tidy my room, and that was just one of the things I stumbled upon. I was nearly going to throw it away. I was hesitating. Obviously, yes, I know. It's a very debated and controversial opinion on whether you are allowed to throw away gifts that people give you. I'm of the opinion that you can, because like, especially when you're young, people give you all sorts of things and sometimes you just gotta make room for other things. So yeah, that was one option that I was considering, just getting rid of it and giving it to someone else. But I ended up thinking maybe I could do something about it because I really like teddy bears nails if you hadn't noticed, and so I put a challenge to transform it, sort of give it a DIY makeover, which I think I did pretty well. I just wanted to make it look like it was handmade, completely out of clay. The LED aspect of it does not work in this case anymore. It's not compatible, but it's fine because I have loads of LED things hanging around in my room that I just don't use, so that wasn't really something I was worried about. For this one, all I did was I covered the entire thing with air drying clay, then I painted it a couple times, realized that it didn't look exactly right, so I added clay again so that I could end up sanding it a bit more so that the surfaces would be smooth. I forgot to mention, but the first thing I did was remove the accessories, so the pink bow and the eyes and nose, so that I could start with a really clean base and then build up with clay, paint. I did a bit of sanding as well and then painted it again. Didn't really like the colour, so I changed it, and I'm really glad I did, to stick with this sort of brown look. It's not for everyone's taste. I sort of like it. I think it looks cute. You can sort of still see the eye marks from the original figurine, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Yeah, that's one of the things that I also have in my room that I made. We also have these jars that I made a really long time ago. I did this when I was in secondary school, which is why it says a spice of imagination and flower power, but I just bought these old looking glass jars from a car boot sale and then just filled them up with many beads. I also made lids out of toilet paper that I wrapped with sellotape, and then I made these DIY labels out of paper. Yeah, probably could do a better job now, but yeah, I still have them hanging up in my room because, I don't know, they just fit very well there, but yeah. Another one I'm not sure you can consider a DIY because it's not even finished, but this was supposed to be filled to the top with different layered coloured salt. It was something that I saw a lot online of people filling jars with really pretty sort of like sand looking powder. It's basically just salt that they coloured with chalk, and yeah, I was going to fill it up gradually, making a rainbow. I started with green and then blue, and I stopped because they ended up mixing a bit too much for my liking, and I kind of got a bit discouraged by that because they weren't supposed to mix that way. They were supposed to be very distinct layers. I actually think the mixing makes it look a little more natural, but yeah, I just stopped, so maybe one day I should really go back to it. This was also many years ago, so yeah. Sometimes I just start things and I never finish them, even if they're really easy things to do. Another DIY that I technically made, even though it's not finished, so it's not really something I made, but something I tried making. But moving on. Then we have this bedside table that I tried upcycling. Really terrible job. It definitely didn't look like that when I did it all the way back in secondary school. It looked much better back then, but it took its toll with time. What can I say about it? Basically, it was this wooden bedside table that I bought at a charity shop, and I didn't really like the shape. It had a drawer under here that you could use, but yeah, I just didn't think it was very practical to have the entire inside be open. All of these pieces were not present. They were added by me. You could basically see the entire thing, and it wasn't very practical for putting books or putting things in, so I decided to go for a more retro look by making it a more squared table. So I added cardboard to the three sides, leaving this part open. But yeah, I just cut out cardboard to fit it, and then I hot glued it to the existing wood pieces of the table. And then once it was hot glued, I wrapped it all entirely with newspaper, and then I just painted it with white acrylic paint. It took so many layers of paint, and it's still very much transparent. You can truly see through the paint and see the newspaper's article sometimes. It's not good. It's not good at all. This was not the original thing. When I first got the table, I covered the top with flowery pattern to make it look prettier. Then I changed my mind and I didn't like it, so that's when I came with the cardboard cutouts to change its shape, and then the newspaper and the paint. I knew that even when I did this, they would look much better if the pieces of cardboard were not cardboard but actual pieces of wood, like planks, but I just did with what I had. I mean, it serves its purpose. It is falling to pieces, as you can see on each side. It is falling to pieces, but yeah, maybe one day I'll go back to it. I think I definitely will. Another DIY that I made a few years back was this decoration hanging behind my desk. It doesn't usually look like, I was going to say it doesn't usually look like this. It does usually look like this because I also use it to hang important post-it notes, but originally its only purpose was to be a decoration and to be aesthetic. But for this one, the back piece, like the main piece, is a piece of wood that came from a IKEA desk, and it was just not a great desk. It was falling to pieces, so then when we got rid of it, I kept this plank of wood. I think it was for the back piece of the desk, and I painted it with white paint. And then for the Polaroid, the DIY Polaroid, I took pictures of the images that popped up on my mother's Kindle when it goes to sleep, printed them, and then stuck them on pieces of paper that I cut out to look like Polaroids. They all look very much different, so yeah, I was very much improvising, didn't really take any measurements. But yeah, then I strung some string, 3 to be exact, that I stuck with sellotape on the back, and then I had these tiny, what are they called? Clips, and then I just used them. I don't know what else to say about it, but yeah, as you can see with the weight of the things I'm hanging on there, it fell not in its prettiest phase, but it is what it is. This is obviously a drawing that you could say that I have hung in my room as well, just an eye that I did in class back when I was at university, because I like it. So I just have that hung there, hidden behind my computer. If you watched one of my previous videos, then you know exactly what this is. This is a DIY unicorn baby's breath bouquet that I made and struggled to make. Again, link in the description if you're interested. I just have it on my desk. I won't be explaining too much how I did it. The video says it all. It would probably be a little too long for me to explain it. So yeah, if you're interested, just check that one out. And yeah, but that's another thing that I DIY'd. Talking about DIY, this huge tapestry is also something I made. I don't know how many times I have to say it in this video, considering this video is entirely about things that I've made. I don't know why I have to repeat it, but yeah. A tapestry that I DIY'd back when tapestries were super trendy. I think it was back when I was in secondary school, like 2015, 2016, maybe 2017. Everyone had them in their bedrooms, so many YouTubers, and I was jealous. I wanted one, but they didn't really sell in the shops that I went to, and I didn't really buy things online back then, so I decided to make my own, and this is what it looks like. I just had a piece of fabric. Actually no, my mother had a piece of fabric laying around, so I just used that, and then I improvised and painted over it with acrylic paint. I didn't stencil anything, I just started in the center, well, what looked like the center, and then made my way around and just did it on the spot really. It's not actually finished, as you can see. It was supposed to be finished with the dots, but then I didn't really like how that looked, so I tried going in with kind of diamond shapes, which I do really like, and I did really like back then. I just stopped. I don't know, I put it, I think, on a temporary pause and then never went back to it. But yeah, I used a paintbrush and I also used a Q-tip. A Q-tip? I don't think that's what it's called. Those things to paint for the smallest details. But yeah, it's pretty big and it's been hanging on my wall for years. Doesn't look very professional, I know that, but I really enjoyed the process and I'm still kind of really proud of it. And now we have the main wall, which the tapestry is also a part of. This is where I have most of the art and DIYs that I've made hung in my bedroom. We first have, if I start from this corner, this little display of pins that I made myself. I just used a piece of foam that I covered with an old sock so that it would fit my colour scheme. And then I just hung all of the pins that I was given. Next to it we have a little painting that I did of a photo that I saw on Pinterest. I used acrylic paint and yeah, I think the original canvas is one that I cut in two so that it would be the right format. But there you go. We also have this thing hanging, which I did for an art project all the way back in college. The assignment was to make something on a unconventional material. and play around with the different backgrounds / materials. This is part of a set. It also has another one that I did, but I don't have it hung on my wall. Only this one because I think it just looks good. And for this I used one of my mother's hoops that I never gave back, and I just embroidered something on 2 layers of tights. I just thought it would be interesting to, instead of using the typical fabric to embroider or sew on, to just use tights. It was a bit tricky because it's very elastic and it's also quite thin, which is why I used 2 layers of tights so that it worked a little better. But yeah, I just did some pretty abstract shapes. Slightly looks like a sky, but yeah, I just used those colours because I thought they looked good together, and then I just stuck, once I was done, some gold stars that I used to put on literally everything. But yeah, that was that. I think I would be interested in trying again. It was really fun when I did it first time. This one is just a piece of cardboard that I painted over. It had another design on it, an illustration, many years ago, and then I sort of got tired of it, so I painted over it again with something that I liked a little better. And for this one I just used Posca markers and acrylic paint, back when I was very much into using Posca markers to draw. For this one I had already done a draft drawing markup so that I sort of knew exactly what I wanted it to look like. But yeah, I just settled for this. This one is also technically a DIY, not really. I had this since I was like a baby and then didn't really like how it looked anymore. I mean, it was okay. I just decided that I wanted to give it a bit of a makeover. So I painted the entire background white. I think it was already white, but I just wanted to look even whiter than it was. And then I painted the letters gold, and then this little bird, I used a photo reference to do it. And yeah, I just used a simple marker, not the best marker, but this is supposed to be black, by the way. But yeah, then I covered it with wood glue to protect it, and that's it. For this one, it's just a simple box. It came with objects that we bought, maybe Christmas ornaments, but I liked the box and the way it looked, so I kept it, and then I just painted the inside and also the outside. Originally the idea was to make a rainbow on this outline, which I did with Posca markers. Didn't end up really liking it, so I painted over it with white paint. Didn't do enough layers that you can't see it peeking through, because you can in some places, but it doesn't really bother me. And again, sometimes I just abandon some projects or I give in to the way it looks. And then I just hung this ornament that my sister bought me a couple years ago for Christmas, because I just thought it was too pretty to keep it in boxes for only Christmas time. So yeah, I think it fits perfectly well where it is, and I think it looks wonderful. The 3 other things that I made and DIY'd in my room are these 3 art projects that are all made out of old art supplies. I won't be getting into how I did those because there's a whole video showing the process, so if you're interested, again, check that out. But yeah, for this one I used an old piece of tissue that I used to wipe paint. This one I used old paint tubes that were empty, and then for this one I just used old paint that dried, and yeah, that's about it. I did glue this one onto the frame because of how 3D it is and how it wouldn't have fitted under the frame. Completely forgot to mention this. It's only after I finished editing the clips that I remembered that I had this that I also made. It's just that it fell, and so I hadn't seen it in months. But yeah, I also made this, which is just a little note with a quote from the Dead Poets Society, because it's a wonderful film and it's a wonderful quote. And I actually made a comic out of it a few years back during COVID and lockdown. It's not really related to this video, but I just thought I would mention it because, yeah, why not? But yeah, there's not much to say to this one besides that it used to hang here, but it doesn't anymore because, again, as I said, it fell. It's just a piece of cardboard paper that I wrote the quote on with a black marker, and then all around, for it to not look too white and too boring, I added a bit of paint. It was technically leftover water that was stained from previous art projects, but yeah, I just really like it. I put pieces of masking tape on the back for it to stick to the wall, which again didn't work very well. But yeah, it just says Carpe diem, seize the day boys, make your lives extraordinary. And it's pronounced by Robin Williams' character in the Dead Poets Society. If you haven't seen that film, I really recommend. It's a great
great feel, and I just really like having it hung on my wall to remind me to make my life extraordinary in my own way. For this one, it's a frame I bought at a car boot sale. It originally had a artwork, a painting in it that I wasn't necessarily a big fan of. I just really like the shape of it, and even though the frame looks really fake, since I think it's made out of plastic, I still wanted to get it, so I did, and I painted it with chalk paint so that you could write in it. I had bought pink chalk paint, so I just used that, and then my mother wrote this little message in it. Didn't do anything to the frame, just painted over the original painting that it had in. On this side of my bedroom we have all sorts of illustration that I did over the years. Some are pretty old, they're all sort of falling. Since this is where the chimney is, it does melt the blue tack quite a lot. This was a card my grandfather gave me. This was just a post-it note on which I wrote a quote that I came across in a video that I saw that I really liked. For this one, it's just a piece of cardboard. I just glued a piece of paper that I liked. It's facing the wrong way, but it is what it is. For this one, also just a piece of cardboard that I added a piece of paper to with different shapes that I drew with felt tip pens. You can tell how old it is by how washed out the colours are from the sun. There's actually some blue in there, here, here and here and here, but it's just completely gone, even the pink. But yeah. For this one, it's also a piece of cardboard that I stuck a piece of cardboard paper that I liked. It was gold, came from a chocolate box I think, and then I just wrote this quote with a black marker. I based this quote and this style of quote on a photo reference that I used to make it. And then this is just a piece of paper that I drew on with Posca markers. I just drew lines however I felt, and this was the finished result. Very abstract and geometric. The last thing that I nearly forgot to mention is this improvised shelf. Originally it was a very steady and thick cardboard box, so I thought that it was just some great cardboard and I wanted to keep it, which is why I did. I tried hanging a proper shelf to this part of my room, but since it's the chimney, you can't hang proper things because you just can't, like with screws and stuff, so I had to change my original plan of using a wooden shelf to just a cardboard box, which is a lot lighter. So I just cut the edges, made it look like this. I painted the whole thing. You can see some parts are not very well painted, but yeah, I did also add a bit of sellotape, masking tape to be precise, on some of the edges like here, so that it would be a little better, or that it would be like properly closed. Because like for example here on this part of the box you can see the different layers of the cardboard, and so to prevent that I just added some masking tape so that it would be easier to paint, I guess, and so that you wouldn't end up with holes like you do in here. Since it's quite light, I just held it up to the chimney with tiny pins. I think that's what they're called, but yeah, just put some in each corner and it just holds up. Obviously you can't put very heavy things on it. I've had it for like 5 years holding up, so I think that's quite good. It is starting to come off, as you can see. Some of the pins are coming off, but it's still holding up, so I haven't reinforced it. But yeah, I just put quite a few pins on each side to hold it up to the wall, and yeah, it's a bit weird looking and it doesn't look that great either, I know that, but I don't know. I feel like it completed the look when I first put it there, so I've just kept it. But there you go.
Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, don't hesitate to give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you soon. Bye!